Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I am going to be reviewing the PAX West Godfest that was just recently announced and I just managed to put together a write-up for. So, as with my other Godfest reviews, I try and just give you a snapshot of all the various pantheons, what they can do, how you can use them, and it was a way to basically help you better decide if it's worth rolling on that day. Now, it's the first time I've done a video like this, so hopefully you find it enjoyable. My other videos have been well received, so I'm going to continue this trend moving forward. So, the PAX West Godfest basically is a 3-day spectacle featuring 2 different pantheons and various Godfest exclusive cards on those days. There is another carnival coming up at some point. I'm not sure. I'll edit it accordingly when I find out. But this is basically the general breakdown of the days. I'm not sure why there's a space there. That wasn't there before. But when you're rolling for a Godfest, you should generally look at the pantheons featured because those are much more likely to be rolled than the numerous Godfest exclusives featured. So the thing is, like, if you're chasing Godfest exclusives, that's great, but you should try and aim for a day that has a better fallback, like safety net. Now, in case if you want like spoilers, day 1 and 2 are much better than day 3. So on day 1, it features the newly awoken evolved Japanese 2 Pantheon and the Indian 2 Pantheon, who are just receiving their various evolutions. And the Japanese 2 have been very dominant for a very long time because they had very powerful leader skills and actives when they were released. However, Power Creep has kind of pushed them lower down in terms of tier lists and ratings, and these Awoken evolutions are trying to breathe life into them. However, it's still not quite strong enough to help them recapture that glory day they had. Conversely, the Egyptian 2 Pantheons were one of the weakest, so they only can move up from there, and they actually have with the new evolutions. There's still 2 more to be released, Vishnu and Krishna, so they might get even stronger, so it's hard to say how good they are at this exact point. So, Ami no Uzume gained an Awoken form. It doesn't do much, to be honest. Her active skill got marginally buffed to 2 times from 1.5 times recovery. As a leader, she's too fragile because if she gets hit, she cannot basically regain that safe damage zone, and there's no scaling multipliers. Just if you're above 80%, you deal damage. If you're below, you don't. Her active doesn't heal. Her active is really weak, actually. Like, it's pretty disappointing. Like, if you look at Awoken Liu Bei, he makes orbs, he heals, and bind clears. She just bind clears and recovery boost. Like, I don't see the logic of why she has to be so much weaker. Like, it could have been so much better. If she had at least healed, she could be a reasonable farming leader. Next is Awoken Yumasachi Yamasachi. I used to main them extensively on Fantastic back in the day when they were strong. I actually recorded videos back in the day when they were good of relatively hard content, so it's worth taking a look if you can find them because they're very deep down. However, this new evolution does change things up a little bit. They gain Water Dark, so that changes your sub roster. You don't have to bring a Dark sub monster anymore. And that could be big because it means one less hurdle to overcome. And conversely, running actually the Water Green, like his normal form, is actually a very good option because the active change, now it's Hearts to Dark instead of Hearts to Wood, and now you get Jam or Poison to Wood. However, he gained 1 turn to his cooldown, which is kind of disappointing because why did they have to give him 1 additional turn on cooldown? You look at DQXQ, she did not gain an initial turn for cooldown when you made Jammer and Poison Works. So it's a little disappointing, and the fact that he's a complete glass cannon leader who is relatively orb hungry doesn't help his case. Like, it's just problematic. Like, we have lots of glass cannons available, and a glass cannon rainbow leader that needs lots of orbs can be problematic to use. Like, you're going to be kind of active reliant to continue bursting things down because with your only 4 color match, you're only 16 times damage. Awoken Kushinami, I don't know how to say her name. Awoken Kush was announced. There's no PAX thing for it. There's no icon. It wasn't released in Japan, so it might change. So I'm not going to really discuss her too much. But at this point, she's quite weak. Like, she doesn't have much uses. And her Awoken form hopefully gives her at least more viability. If she gains unbindability, she makes a decent sub because you can tank hits more efficiently. But it still is up in the air of how good she's going to be because they might change because it was met with a bit of a mix of uproar. Next is Awoken Izanagi. Awoken Izanagi is basically a weaker form of Miru. However, he is pullable, so that means you can get him right away, and you can evolve him relatively easily by comparison to Miru's wild evolution chart. So you basically get a 7 times leader, so double Izanagi's 49, which is like Miru, 50% damage reduction, and 2 times recovery for God Imbalance, which is nice because some subs are, and that's enough to boost your recovery significantly. Now, I would recommend pairing Izanagi with actually Miru's, because Miru is also a god herself, so that she gets the bonus automatically, but Izanagi lacks the time extent, and time extent is a huge problem for Heart Cross leaders. And Miru gives 2 bonus seconds, Izanagi gives half, so it's going to be a big struggle, especially if you use dual Izanagi. Furthermore, Izanagi's active, not the most helpful on 2 leaders, because you don't really need double damage twice, like you really shouldn't, and his cooldown's only 6 turns, so he's actually a good base to pair a different active. I foresee people pairing him with Miru and being quite proficient with it, because you gain the nuke, which kind of solves the lower damage multiplier, and it gives people who can't farm Miru an option to jump on this hype train. Finally is Awoken Ukunashi. I don't know how to say names. It's painful for me. It's probably more painful for you as well. But he got a pretty powerful evolution. He gained 2 turns of delay for a bonus of 3 turns on his cooldown. Debatable how good it is, but it could be powerful because 2 turns might be enough to deal with mechanics that you normally couldn't overcome. And he did lose his god typing, so you can't use him on Yomi Dragon teams, and he did lose his second 2-prong, so he can't pierce through high defense cards like he used to. However, he does gain Devil, so now he can be used on Pandora and names are tough. But you can use them on Devil teams now, which is a nice option because you now have a delay, which you may not have been able to bring beforehand. As a leader, he's yet again another glass cannon leader, except he is less restrictive compared to Yumasachi Yamasachi, as he just needs dark combos instead of water combos and rainbows. He needs dark combos and just regular combos. So that's more doable, but he doesn't have an orb change active, so again, I don't think he's going to be used much as a leader. And some people might want to keep him as his dark blue form, because you may only need 1 turn of delay, you might need the god typing, you might need the 2-prong. It's up to you. Next is Indian 2. Krishna is in a very bad place currently. If he gets an evolution like Sarasvati, he's going to be a lot more powerful. It'll give fire teams, where fire box is a good leader, like a strong leader. So hopefully that actually happens. I look forward to that if it does. Right now he's very weak. I wouldn't pursue him until we know further. On the other hand, Sarasvati is incredibly powerful. She forms 100 times row, water row leader, but because of the rows, you deal even more damage than a lot of other glass cannon leaders. And I wrote a full review for her that you can find here on my post. You can click there, it'll take you to there. And also a comparison to Yao Yu and whether it's worth you need to purchase him if you have her. I like her. I've used her in certain situations. She's great in short dungeons with very high damage requirements and relatively low mechanics, i.e. no giant preemptives, stalling required absorption shields, so on and so forth. Next up is Vishnu, and he basically broke that chain of mediocrity before these new evolutions hit, because he's still relatively viable. He has 3 2-prongs, a wood Skyfall buff on a 6-turn cooldown. Now, he's good on Awoken Best Cat teams who might get a new evolution of Pad Cross. He can also be in other budget for Ranove, perhaps. But he's a strong TPA card for Wood, and Wood does like TPA, so he's strong right now, and if he gets an evolution, he's only going to become stronger, and that's what I would look forward to. Ganesha got newly announced evolution. They become a 1.5 times rank experience, 2 times coin leader, and that rank experience is very important because a lot of people are starting to try and push higher ranks, and they want to find more efficient ways to do it, such as more time efficient dungeons. So even if you just use it for, say, experience of a lifetime or maybe Monday dungeons, you're gaining a lot more experience. Monday dungeons would then become very fast to run because you can button your way through it with a regular leader and Ganesha, and experience a lifetime, hey, why not take an extra 400,000 experience instead of 200? But I'm pretty sure Japanese players will find a way to use them when it actually goes live and how to abuse it for various high-ranking dungeons. So it's actually good to pull. Now it's not just like monster point fodder or just sitting in your box because they don't do much outside of that leader skill, to be honest. And finally, we come to Durga, and Durga got a new evolution. She got a lot of awakenings. She got an improvement to her leader skill, but it's not viable. If she got this evolution a year ago, she would have seen a lot of gameplay. However, a 56 times Rainbow Leader, even with recovery, is not going to make a dent. It doesn't matter how much you can heal if you can't actually kill the floor. Like, that's the problem. It's just not enough damage. Like, it's just sad to say, but it's not going to be enough damage. Yes, she has dual 2-prongs. Yes, she has a damage enhance, but it's not going to be that efficient. The only leader pairing I might see working is possibly with Sephiroth, and that way you get a higher multiplier, and you get a different active. Granted, his active isn't that great, but the point is you might be able to possibly start doing like Machine Zeus, Hera, etc. with Durga and Sephiroth. It's an option for people who never pulled him. That's where I see her gain the most value as leader. As a sub, gained value, but we don't really have a good spot for her. Like, Dark TPA sub doesn't really have a home at this point. And her active is a strong boost. It's a good inheritance. And it's also nice for health resets, such as Dark Metatron teams. However, Dark Metatron teams or health conditional leaders are not that popular still. So it's still just going to be held in your monster box, I think, with nominal uses. Day 2 is another very exciting day, in my opinion, because you have the Egyptian 1, who were at one point the strongest Pantheon in the game, and now the recently revamped Mechanical 1 Pantheon with their new evolutions. So you kind of have almost that changing of the guards, like top Pantheon kind of bringing down and a lower Pantheon coming up. So you have two high-ranking Pantheons, in my opinion. So Day 2 is actually a good day to roll, especially if you're missing a lot of these cards. Egyptian 1, one thing to note about them is that granted, they're not the best leaders in the game now. They are still powerful leaders, and they can farm their own Awoken materials for their own evolutions or your other team's evolutions, and that's important to have right from the get-go. And that will make your life a lot easier if you are a newer player and you pull one of the Egyptian 1 cards. Conversely, the Mechanical 1 series, they gained new evolutions that made them some of the strongest subs in the games because they have this God Killer Awakening and a whole host of wonderful other awakenings. So, going through them quickly, Horus, not the best Rainbow Leader, doesn't hit very hard, it's 45.5 times. If Durga's 56 doesn't make a dent, this is going to make even less of a dent. He might get an update with the pad cross if that comes. Just keep that in mind. You might have a use for your KFC. Isis is still going to be one of the strongest subs in the game. She has the water wood coverage for rainbow teams, and she also has a 3-turn active that can be easily inherited on. So you can gain the bind immunity, bind clearing active, while gaining a new active on top that you can use very frequently, such as Raw Dragon teams. They used to rely on using Awoken Isis just for that purpose. They cover their 2 colors as well as gaining a new active through skill inheritance. Now, she still has a lot of value. Mono Water teams will probably run her as their bind clear of choice because she at least has some offensive awakenings. And you can inherit a better active on top if you don't need the bind clear later on, let's say. Bestcat, or Bastet, is, or was, a very strong leader. She has fallen very far from grace as she's only a 36 times attack leader. 36 times, 2-prong, not going to make that much of a dent. Even though Wood does have a ton of TPA subs to draw from, she's just not going to be as dominant as she used to be because it's just too little damage. Pad Cross will give her a significantly higher multiplier. She'll become a glass cannon combo leader. At least it's something new, and Wood has a lot of subs to back her up, so something to look forward to when Pad Cross comes out. Next is Awoken Raw, and Awoken Raw is one of the most desired cards in the game because of his active, because you can use him to do push button teams and nuke or execute pre-draws in arena or rogue descents. And that is basically the purpose of Raw now. He used to be 100 times leader, still strong, but not as viable as it used to be. But the fact that you can push button your way to victory or overcome various mechanics in Rogue Descends or Arena is invaluable and makes him very desired to pull. And not just pull, but pull in numerous dupes. Like, players will keep 4, 5, maybe 6 Raws because they can inherit them to various teams, use them on their push button teams. It's just a beautiful card to have now, just in today's current meta. Finally, we have the one true Doge, Anubis, who used to be the most spectacular leader in the game for damage output, but now he's been overpassed by Fenrir, and his output is fantastic. However, it's unreliable, and you can deal that much damage with a lot of other leaders much more reliably. His main drawback was having great inconsistency, and that still happens today. He's still very inconsistent. Like, his consistency didn't improve when power creep occurred, so that's unfortunate. And if you want to try and look at him in a bright light, he can be used as a sub for the counterattack to remove jam or poisons, but you might as well use something like Grizzar unless you're inheriting it. So he's in kind of a bad place, and not many people can use him efficiently, to be honest, and it's not worth the effort. Next is the mechanical one. They all have the same awakenings except change the orb enhance to their specific color. I'm going to go through them relatively quick because this video is getting kind of long. And Antares, their possible newest use now is on Awoken Cow teams, because you are able to use 7-turn cooldowns with haste to form a system. So you could have multiple Scarlets, and you can use Antares in addition if you don't have a full Scarlet system, and you can use an active every turn and prop Cow and do damage. Something to keep in mind. Alreshka got a new evolution, very, very pretty. Not much details otherwise, hasn't been released. Same with Spica, she's in Japan, hasn't been released in North America. She's very pretty as well. I don't like, in general, the mechanical one's leader, so I should have gone over that actually before. So they got split evolutions, and the leader evolution is 49 times leader, is it, I believe? Let me double check, I wrote it down here. I did not, I was mistaken. It's about a 49 times leader or so. But it's nothing spectacular, but it's restricted to machine types. And that's a problem because there's not many strong machines. And they only gained a skill boost as an extra awakening. So in every single situation except for when you need the extra color coverage, you should always go for the God Killer awakening or God Killer evolution. Simple as that. Unless you need the coverage. And that coverage really only comes into play when you're using Pollux. Like, if you need the fire coverage on, say, DQXU teams, you might have to stick with the light fire one, which is unfortunate because the dark form is one of the strongest subs in the game for her, in my opinion. Like, I have a Pollux on Mantastic, and it's been pretty fantastic, to be honest, when I'm playing DQXQ. I have that extra color coverage, which is convenient, but I have Giant Burst on her, as well as an easier time using her active, because I can use her active and I can have any 3 combination of the 5 colors remaining, and I can kill floors. Very powerful, very potent. Pollux is probably the winner in this pantheon right now. Caster is still reasonably strong. You can use him as a leader, even in his sub form, and pair with Yomi Dragon to have a reasonably strong team. 4 times 6 is 24 times, with damage reduction against every color but his own. That's one thing that the leader evolutions failed, is that they gained a bit of health for machines but lost the damage reduction, which is universal. Finally, we're into day 3, and by this point, hopefully you spent your stones, because day 3 is relatively disappointing. The Greco-Roman pantheon has not been good for a very, very long time, and unless we get Pad Cross, which makes series more relevant, Venus is the only strong card in that pantheon at the moment, and that sees regular usage, and she's mainly used as a base for skill inheritance. I'll get to her shortly, and for the Angel 1 series, Rosdual is the best card from it for Ronove teams, as it comprises his best in slot red, water, fire, water coverage. I didn't even write a review for Angel 1. I was copy-pasting a lot of things I had before and editing, and no one really uses them. They're not really highly demanded. They're very niche at best. If you have them and you know what to use them for, that's probably one of their only uses. But Minerva, defense break, but it's only 50%, not the best. Neptune, it's a really long poison on 15 turn cooldown. Damage enhanced for attacker devils, but again, it's too long of a cooldown. You wouldn't use them for poison either, really, because it's really long. Ceres is often overlooked as a good bind clear. She's actually reasonable. She has at least a couple of offensive awakenings. She can work on Coyote teams if you don't have, say, Weejas or Odin Dragon or Green Odin. Still a good option, to be honest. And with Pad Cross, we may get more use out of her because she gains Killer Awakenings. Finally, Venus, who is the shining star of this pantheon, she is used as a base for skill inheritance because she has a 4-turn cooldown, 3 light rows, and high base stats with emphasis on recovery. And that's very important on, say, Miru or DQXQ teams. So I like Venus. I use her quite extensively on both of my accounts. She's worth the investment, and she's the best thing to pull from this day. But pulling for one card on one day is not a good option, considering no other Pantheon alternatives that's great. Finally, Hades. He's a devil, so we can use on devil teams. However, gravity has kind of gone out of style. It's a 25% gravity, so it has niche uses, but they're niche at best. You can bypass certain resolves easily, or more easily, I should say, but that's kind of it. So, in conclusion, the PAX West Godfest has 3 days of excitement, but really day 1 and 2 are your best bets. There's a lot of value in those pantheons, especially if you don't own them and you're trying to fill out your monster box. They have a lot of diversification, and you'll get a good mixture of subs, leaders, and even inherited skills that are valuable. So let me know what you think of this review, as well as what days you actually plan on rolling, how many stones you've saved up. Check out my site. There will be a link in the description to link you to this article, so you can click and interact, because they will all link to PAX in case you want more information. So thank you for watching, and happy puzzling.